Welcome to the Happy Garden of Practitioner. This is Lopan Yudron Wangmo coming at you from Oakland, California. And I'm going to rely on my friends now to tell me that the sound is on, truly on, because it should be. New microphone. Today we're going to talk about the life of Yeshe Tsogyal. In particular, we're going to tune in on a chapter from the wonderful book translated by Chini Drilma, sponsored by the Gyanasukha Foundation, and also it's a visionary teaching tale, which was originally discovered by an early Terton named, what was his name? Drime Kunga. And then, Jami Khyentse Wampo in the 19th century brought this to light. So we talked about that the last time around. And in the intervening time between now and then, 2 weeks ago, I tried to do I tried last week to pull it together to talk about Guru Rinpoche's initial instructions to Yeshe Tsogyal after she'd completed 12 years of retreat. She went back, he came to her retreat place where she was living in a remote valley in nature for all those years, and she asked, I had all these visionary journeys to Udayana, and my compassion has totally blossomed, and I feel like I have some realization. Have I learned everything there is to learn? Have I reached the pinnacle of realization? And he said, you're not even close. And so that must have been, imagine 12 years in retreat. So then she said, well, could you sing me a song of what I need to know to correct this situation? And spoiler alert, I'll say that the general gist of it was that she hadn't brought together knowledge and practice into one. So this mirrors the whole dynamic, symbolic dynamic between Guru Rinpoche representing skillful means, upaya, technique, teaching, knowledge, and so forth. And then prajna, the feminine principle embodied in Yeshe Tsogyal, who represents totally non-dual spacious wisdom. And basically what I get after I'm eating, sleeping, and drinking with this resulting song that Guru Rinpoche wrote, quite honestly. What I'm feeling about it right now, because it's kind of complex and enigmatic in places, is that it's about this integration, this bringing together of these upaya and prajna. And that the teaching to us is that we can't let teaching, what seems like intellectual knowledge, we can't reproach Dharma teachings like they are intellectual knowledge. We approach them as how do we bring them into our experience? There's no purpose to these teachings if they're left on a chalkboard somewhere. So in that vein, Guru Rinpoche starts out by saying the following. Consider what this means, Lady Lotus. When you reflect on death, that is the time to practice. Not only that, but it's already almost too late. So you have to feel like the old Zen saying, practice like your hair is on fire. It's an emergency. You have to do this. This lifetime, this opportunity may not come again. And then he goes on to say, I have words of heart advice for you, so pay close attention. Worthy and faithful woman, and do as I say. To begin with, the underlying causes of the round of rebirth, the mental afflictions of desire, cause utter misery. So the combination of the round of rebirth and the mental afflictions of desire, desire being in some ways identified, the Buddha, the first thing he taught about was how desire is ultimately creates our suffering. But even underneath that, Guru Rinpoche is about to back up and say, underneath that is ignorance. So stupidity, the word stupidity, let's see what he says here. In the cliffness of the mountain of stupidity dwell the small birds of ruinous anger. They cling with bias to the roar of pride and ride the gales of jealousy. So what are those? Those are the 5 kleshas, or afflictive emotions, afflictive states. Klesha is a Sanskrit word. And so that's a word we should learn, klesha. And of course, there's thousands of different afflictive emotions depending on us, right? And our minds are all different from each other. I think the older I get, the more I see how different I am from others. I see the commonalities, and it's easy to see commonalities right now because we're all in a global pandemic, and we all have, to some degree, have really similar emotional experiences and ways of relating to it. We can see that from YouTube videos, about other people's experience. So we have the universal experience, but our minds have, based on karma, have really different qualities. So let me bring up this movie I made. It's not easy to make words on the screen for me in this setting, so that was another issue I had. So I made a little cartoon kind of thing. There's a mountain of stupidity. So there's a mountain of stupidity. And here's a cliff face of ignorance, So the word stupidity is a translation, I'm sure, of the word timuk, which is one of the words for ignorance that comes to us, the concept of ignorance in Buddhism that comes to us from the Sanskrit language of moha. And so timuk kind of implies a dullness, mental dullness, as well as ignorance. But there's another word, avidya, or marikpa, that more leans into the feeling of lack of wisdom, lack of knowledge. So it's both of these things are connoted by the term moha. So there's a cliffness of stupidity, and what are those? Well, those are the little birds of anger. The angry birds. And how are they connected to our stupidity? Well, I'm going to stop it for a second there. Oh, I can do that. And say that our angry birds, this flutter out from the cliff nests that we've built in the side of this mountain of stupidity. And what does stupidity mean? Really, and different kinds of Buddhism, styles of Buddhism define it in different ways. For all, it's regarded as our core klesha. And the way we approach it in the Vajrayana school, the Tibetan Buddhist schools, is we don't know. We are stupid about our own self-identity. We believe that our identity is solid and real, and there really is a soul there. And where is this? There's a soul. Having the idea of a soul, none of us should be using the word soul. I'm going to take a doctrinal stance here. To talk, it's a fundamental difference between Hinduism and Buddhism and pre-Hinduism, like in the Indian religions, and also our own Abrahamic religions, that there's a continuity of a soul in a person, a real identity, a deep identity that makes us unique and special and it's permanent and so forth. This is totally wrong. And so having that conceptual idea from that is so indoctrinated in us, and we can think we may have that idea indoctrinated from previous lifetimes, not only this lifetime. And it's so that's one thing, this kind of concept that we have. And then the other thing is this experience we have of just arising in a new sentient being birth as a human being, and in the womb beginning to develop a sense of I and a sense of self, differentiating from perhaps the warmth of our mother around us, and building and building and building on that into, so we really, really think that there's a Yudron here. There's a Tenzin there. There's a Daniel there. And this is very, very important and solid and real. And so once you have that, it's like a solid mountain. You're making a mountain of earth out of something that's really completely illusory. It doesn't, it's unimportant whether there's some kind of there in external phenomena, that there's some reality out there. The only way we perceive reality is through our faulty human senses. So we perceive reality completely different than an ant, than some kind of ghost, than any other people. Our reality is completely different than other reality, which means it doesn't really have any fundamental truth to it. And yet we ascribe so much righteousness, and this immediately builds up a sense of anger when other people's and animals and the world contradicts our really solid sense of it externally. And then internally, why does it do that? Because we have this really firm sense of identity. Okay, this is Buddhism 101, right? But Guru Rinpoche felt it was really important to go back with Yeshe Tsogyal, who was a, incarnate Dakini with incredible signs, of, qualities from day one of her life, and then practiced for 12 years in retreat. And so this teaching is about how we can still not get it, right? And what's happening now? One of those birds is getting really big. And what's that? That's pride. And in Tibetan, the word is ngagyal. Nga is I, and gyal is like king. So we're making a king out of this sense of self. And that follows from all of this sense of stupidity that we have about phenomena. And that's buoyed up by envy and jealousy of others, one afflictive emotion building onto the next. So I have to note that I am feeling cognitively stupid in the last couple of weeks. I think it's because this is March of 2021, I hope. And I've been alone for 13 months in a pandemic, and it's impairing my cognitive functioning, I would say. No, I'm quite sure I don't have dementia. So this has been very real for me, this timuk, in the sense of cloudiness and actual incapacity to grasp things. This can also apply to your incapacity to grasp Dharma concepts. So what do we do for that? Vajrayanas, you're here watching. What is our natural remedy for stupidity? What do we do to gain cognitive clarity and understanding and wisdom? Is there a practice for that? Throw it in the comment box if you have one. And we're going to get to it at the end. Oh, see, he just says April. Tenzin just said, no, it's actually April now. And see, that's what I'm telling you. Anyway, I'm getting out now, and I'm partially immunized, so I'll be able to rekindle my mind. But it's making me feel compassion. Every time that I try to, as a practitioner, that I experience every time that I experience any kind of upset, it feels, I have a sense of humor about it as a grown-up practitioner, right? But I feel it's an opportunity to develop compassion. So we have to remember that a lot of people are living in a dense fog all the time. And what's our method for bringing up that level, for clearing the getting cognitive clarity? Well, a really simple one is the Manjushri Mantra, right? Om Arapatsanadi. Om Arapatsanadi. So kids, I put a link in the video description to a little study of 180 school children. I think they were divided in that group between the control and the experimental group. And they used this mantra of Manjushri. I think they were Indian kids pretty much. And then they were did cognitive testing and saw how their cognitive development was going during the study period. And the kids who said, they gave one group the Manjushri mantra, and then they gave one group to do 15 minutes a day. And this is amazing to me. They could get kids to recite a mantra for 15 minutes a day. Maybe they all did it together. Wow, that's a long time for a kid. It's a long time for me right now. I do it, but it's long. And then the other group, what did they do for control? They did a tongue twister, because Om Arapatsanadi is kind of a tongue twister. And they did a random made-up tongue twister of a similar length. And then I can't remember what their study period was, how long it went on, but the kids who said the Manjushri mantra and the kids who said the tongue twister both improved cognitively. I think they may have had a third group of no intervention. You guys can look into it and tell me about it. And then, but the Manjushri mantra kids did better on several measures. So it's just it's an exploratory study, clearly, but I would never have thought of doing that. And so we can do that at the end of this session together. Do some Amarapatsanadi, and the mantra is written in the description for the video. So in case you're not following me, but also we'll start slow and then go faster. So Vajrayana Buddhism has an idea that you can actually take this stupidity and transform it into the most all-encompassing, important, really, kind of wisdom or a pristine consciousness. So we can, right in the nest of our own mental dullness, that mental bubble that you find yourself in when you're depressed or ill, or maybe that's a chronic condition based on something in your life, and not getting it, cluelessness, that can open up into the vast sky-like wisdom of the Dharmadhatu, or there's a number of metaphors for that. Let me bring up a little video about the 5 wisdoms. So yeah, this ignorance of moha, which is also viewed as a kind of impurity, something that can be purified away. And there's 2 words, moha, avidya, not knowing, ma-rikpa. And it can be transformed into this yeshe, or pristine consciousness of the Dharmadhatu. And Dharmadhatu is a very, very deep word. One translator calls it the basic space of phenomena, Chokying in Tibetan. One might say ultimate reality, the expanse of phenomena. But here we're talking about, I'm going to pause for a moment, popping into really an awakened, alert, clear state, which is, I want to read you something that Lama Tarchen Rinpoche said, and I found a slip of paper on my desk that I'd written to myself, notes from a recent video. watching of Lama Tarchen Rinpoche, the late great Lama. He said, truly from the bottom of your heart, you need to concentrate and focus, know that at the original base of our mind, this she, is called in the technical language of our Nyingma lineage, the basis, the ground, like he's saying here, and that is totally like a oneness. So instead of saying, I'm over here, you're over there, I'm good, you're bad, there's a tree and there's a flower and there's a room, and really, like jumping from thing to thing, there's a way to center yourself or poise yourself in an all-encompassing, equal kind of oneness experience. It's really beyond even oneness, I can hear Lama Tarchen Rinpoche saying in my head. And this is what's called like non-duality or oneness, but it's subtly different than what you'll find in these Advaita Vedanta and so forth. It's not a feeling of like we're all part of God, or we're all part of Brahma, one big oceanic identity. It's not like that. We still have our individual mind streams. This is an important thing to get. Buddhism we have our own individual mind streams. And we're developing that, and we're becoming realized. And within our own basis, in our own body, really, there is the capacity, a latent capacity to become poised in this state, there's all these words like vast expanse, it's a single sphere, and all these wonderful esoteric words, but it's not really that fancy. It's not something that you get through studying, becoming an intellectual. Not at all. In fact, very simple people can get it, wake up to this state. And very complex people, very, very, high scholars and so forth, can be completely dumbfounded by it and never get it because they're looking here at words, how much more can I understand the word Yeshe? Squeezing their intellectual mind, like chewing concepts over and over again, like a cow chewing their cud. And I'm not saying it's out there. I am this way. I just made this whole chart. So I am this way, So anyway, ignorance is one of 5 so-called wisdoms or pristine consciousnesses, yeshes. Anger can be transformed into the bright, clear, mirror-like wisdom. Pride can be transformed into the wisdom of evenness, emptiness, equanimity, Dakini Yeshe. Envy and jealousy can itself wake up into a state of really incredible, all-accomplishing activity. These are really core concepts of both Mahayana, but even more so Vajrayana, Tantric Buddhism. But then what Yeshe Tsogyal is dealing with is is beyond even Vajrayana, Tantric Buddhism, or all these lists and so forth. But this soul instant presence, waking up in this non-dual state completely without any concepts of what kind of wisdom it was, that kind of thing. All right, so let's take a little moment and try to brighten ourselves up. I don't know if any of you guys are having any inability to understand the Dharma or just mental fog. Let's do the Manjushri Mantra. A little bit. Om Arapatsana Di. Om Arapatsana Di. Om Arapatsana Di. Om Arapatsana Di. Om Arapachana Di. Sanskrit pronunciation is Pachana, and the Tibetan say patsana. Tsa. Either way is good. Om Arapatsana Di, Om Arapatsana Di, Om Arapatsana Di, Om Arapatsana Di, Om Arapatsana Di. Patsana Di, Om Arapatsana 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 Di. Om Arapachana Di 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 Di. You can just say Di, and that's Manjushri's bija, his seed syllable, his everything. All of this Manjushri is this great personified, this great bodhisattva with a sword in the air, right? Cutting through clearly, cutting with incisive knowledge. And then the other hand has a book, so he's a scholar as well. He gets it, and we can too. You can even just say D, 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 D if you're feeling dull, unable to understand a teaching, so forth. You can pause for a moment and just say Om Arapatsana Di. I could feel myself brightening up as I was doing it. Maybe it's psychological, but I don't think so, because we're looking at, think about that study with those kids in it. They don't know which mantra is which. So there's that, and then, so that's like the dullness, the Timok idea, and then this not knowing and not grasping the emptiness of self and the emptiness of appearances. This we're going back to Vipassana, and of course there's many systems of Vipassana, and some are focused mainly on recognizing the lack of inherent existence of I, me, and there's all of Dharma revolves around recognizing that. There really couldn't be a practice. It doesn't involve that. And then recognizing the lack of self-nature of phenomena. I hate the word phenomena. I wish we had an English word that wasn't so damn eggheady. But, you know, everything that happens and everything you perceive, that's phenomena. So how do we do that? Well, let's do a little practice we've done before with what Dudjom Rinpoche had people do to practice Vipassana. So we can go first, take a moment and just try to poise yourself, center yourself on your seat. Find your heart. Your heart is the center of your sacred circle, extending out in all directions. And you're nicely poised there. Open your mouth just a little bit. Your gaze can go straight forward. Eyes open. They don't have to be wide open though. This is the Bodhisattva gaze. So the Shravaka gaze, or the lower, I'm saying lower, that's not good. the early Buddhism practices, you know, the eyes are closed or they're gazing down beyond your nose. That's the style, and that's a very important practices. They aren't lower actually. So because you're discovering for the right person, they're the best practice. And for us who are very stressed out, it's calming. So, but right now we're doing the Bodhisattva practice. Want to be a little brighter. Now put your awareness out here in front of you, and then look back at your heart center. Or just look back at your whole awareness. Put your awareness out here and look back at your awareness. Your presence there. Relax the eyes. Can you see right through and beyond? So that is getting through how you cut through one method of this sense of self, this reality, hardened sense of self. Then if you want to gaze outward, whatever objects are in front of you, just gaze right through them. Your gaze just goes out infinitely. And so you just rest like that, poised in the same way, and not letting your gaze grasp onto something and make it real. All right, so I'm sort of over time, so I'm not going to do too much meditation with you, but those are two really practical ways you can begin to get a sense, just very subtly and gently, get a sense of a reality beyond what we're cognitive mind, and what our cognitive mind is, how it's deluding us. So I think that's it for today. That's enough, and that was only 4 lines, I think, of his song. Hopefully next week we can get to some more. Thank you for stopping by, and I'll see you again next time. Bye now.